So here you can see over the last almost 20 years, what the percentage is of startups who got funding. It's an average 0.62%. So it's not a percentage of all the startups who get founded. So we are not talking about the startups who never get founded because they never got funding. So if you realize that and you see that this is a pretty high possibility for your startup, you have two chances. You listen to my good friend Dave McClure. He's one of the really geeks in Silicon Valley, which I appreciate a lot, and who's doing very good in the startup world. And he gave a speech 3 years ago about why not to do a startup. Because the probability that you will fail is so high. You are kind of a entrepreneur. You have a business plan, but you don't have a product or customers. You are probably a loser and not a leader. So running a startup is a long way, and it's really scary. So you may be better advised to forget it. Or you have a plan B. And that's exactly what I want to tell you today and want to advise you to prepare for plan B. Because today you will learn that bootstrapping will make you smarter, faster, and stronger. And I can tell you about that story because this is exactly my story. That's how we started about 13 years ago. Because I grew up, as I said, in the eastern part of Germany, in Berlin. So surrounded from a wall like this, but we could see the difference. When you were based in Berlin, you could see what's happening in East and West. So I could see what's going on in East Berlin. That was my first radio. And I could see how a radio looks like on the other side of the wall. So we were forced to be different when we started because we were very hungry. We had no money, we had no funding at all. But by more or less coincidence, we decided to innovate advertising, the industry. So it's a pretty similar situation, I would say, as you are here. You are very hungry, you are very motivated, and you can see the difference, and which is actually a very good start. So what we did is, in a nutshell, I will just want to flip over that. You may have heard about Xanox. It's an online advertising company. We started in the middle of the bubble of 2000. We bootstrapped, of course, if you don't have money. So we started in our garage, together with family and friends, and of course equity. That's a key word you should keep in mind. And we started a performance-based online advertising company. We grew it from 0 to $300 million in revenue, 400 employees. And luckily, we sold it in 2007 to the main media companies in Europe, Axel Springer and the Publi Group in Swiss. So what did we do? We did two things. We innovated and we bootstrapped. In general, it means innovating in terms of what we did. Take an existing business model and combine it in a new way with increased value or reduced costs. That's exactly what an innovation is. Don't invent something. So what we did was we took a business model, online advertising, and we put a new distribution to it, which was crowdsourcing. And we made it much cheaper because it was a performance-based model. So and that's a classical way of an innovation, what we did. I would say by coincidence. And but it's definitely one of the formulas for success which we have realized. So what can you learn from it? First of all, you can make it. Even if you have bad conditions from the beginning, you have maybe no clue at all about your business, what you're doing, and of course, no funding. To understand that, I really had to move back to Silicon Valley because that's what I saw. These guys are really smarter, faster, and stronger in their execution and everything what they do. And so I started from scratch to understand how they do it, why they do it, and in which way they do it. So I took my family in 2009. We moved to Silicon Valley, and we lived there for 4 years. And I basically learned everything from the beginning. So I learned a lot of stuff like the lean startup model makes you much stronger, makes you faster and smarter. I learned about customer validation, which is the main priority you should focus on. I learned about crowdsourcing and collaboration. I learned about social media, which is the best distribution channel you could use today because it's so fast. And I learned about pitching in the public from Kickstarter, having a deal clock, putting some pressure on decisions, and validation by customers. This is a very strong pitch. So, and last but not least, of course, we entered the investors world, talking to many of the VCs, the angel investors, and we learned, of course, you become much stronger if you become independent from investors. And it's really hard to ask for money. And if you can avoid that, it makes you so strong. So when we realized that, we thought, okay, let's start over and let's reinvent the startup funding business. And that's what we did. And that's actually also my motivation for today, why I'm here. Because we see that there is an alternative way for every entrepreneur in the world to run the idea, to start an idea and run a company, even if he is not based in Silicon Valley. So, and that's what I want to sell to you today, the way which we have figured out. I want to show you now. So, what did I do? I asked my 2 partners to also move to Silicon Valley. We had, of course, a good time there, did some surfing, had some fun. And, of course, again, we started in a garage. So, this is a story, how many good stories start in Silicon Valley. Basically, bootstrapped in a garage. Everyone is an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. Everyone has a garage and has a little group around him discussing ideas and making progress in the way. But on the other side, there are also many smart people who educate you in ways how you come up with really new ideas, with processes at Stanford Design School, the design thinking model, or the rapid prototyping to launch as fast as possible an MVP to get real customer feedback, and so on and so on. And of course, we had a very strong vision. As I said, our vision is you are the boss. Everyone's an entrepreneur. So everyone can make it. That's, in a nutshell, our pitch. So, and we have created a new platform. We call it UFOstart. It's what we said, the first crowd investor network for lean startups, basically, where we let you crowdsource your startup together with investors, experts, and customers. So, how does it work, or how does it look like? It is a Facebook application. That's how we started. And as I said, it lets you crowdsource the execution of your startup. We ask you to offer equity for everything what you're looking for every need you have. And there are different categories, I will tell you in a second, to build a very strong community. And why we think it's better, or why we think it's different, it's first of all that you can use the power of the crowd in any regards of your execution. And of course, we make bootstrapping scalable and sexy in a way. So it looks in a way like this. So you have a platform, and it's similar to Kickstarter. You have a public pitch, you have a deal clock, you have a progress bar, and you have a list of things you're looking for where you offer equity. And so you can bring everything together on that platform to make progress with your startup in small sprints. So what we advise, or what we recommend, is do quarterly funding, quarterly steps of progress, and then again do a round like this to get the people and the things you need to make the next step for your next round. So we call that the next generation of company creation. And so when you visit UFOstart, our website, that's exactly what our promise is, our value proposition to startups, building companies the Silicon Valley way, because that makes you smarter, faster, and stronger. So why smarter? It keeps you very lean. So it means you are lean and agile to pivot whenever it's necessary. You have very short sprints, every quarter, every 3 months. You can change your strategy. You can reflect the feedback you got from your customers and adjust to the market. It forces you to validate by customers, because this is one of the biggest mistakes most of the startups do. They don't validate their hypotheses with customers. So the platform forces you to do that. It enables you to unleash the power of the crowd, and it makes you strong for your vision or in your mission, because if you follow plan A, the decision of your startup, if it will survive or not, is dependent from an investor. If you don't like the idea, you don't get money, you're not able to execute. With this model, basically the decision is taken away from the investors and given to the crowd. So the people who can help you to execute on your idea, if they fell in love with your idea, they make the decision if you can make it. And that ends up in a very strong mission or a very strong vision, because people only support things which they love. So why faster? So we definitely think that social distribution is the fastest possible way of distribution you can do today. Leveraging social networks like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., is the way to go. So this is fully integrated in social media networks. You are leveraging your community. You are harvesting basically your own friends and family and bring them to your venture and ask them to help you. So we will ask you to ship features and not code. So we approach you to use services like crowdsourcing and cloud services instead of developing everything from scratch by yourself. And last but not least, a scaled execution via crowdsourcing. You can work in parallel on many, many different things. So why is it stronger? As I said at the beginning, pitching in a public, in front of a crowd, makes you stronger, of course, also in terms of talking to investors. Because if you have a validation from the crowd, customers like what you do, you bring your people in, everybody feels more comfortable. So we give you a platform to pitch in a public. As well, we give you an easy tool to use your equity, so easy as cash. So in the second, when you use the platform, you basically, it feels like you are funded already, because you can make concrete offers to people who can help you. So and ownership, of course, changes everything. If you find people who really love your idea, then they will empower you to make progress. So in general, you can say with a platform you can reduce the cash needs which you have to execute on your startup by almost 80%, because you give the equity not to the investors to get the money and pay the people. You give the equity directly to the people. That's the main change. So, and that's what we call is your plan B. It makes you smarter, faster, and stronger. And if you bootstrap on UFOstart, you do that in a very professional way. So, and since I spent so much time in Silicon Valley, there's always Steve Jobs around, and that's why I also want to remember Steve today. And of course, at the end of the presentation, there's always one more thing. So we have one more thing here today. No matter on which plan you will execute, on plan A, if you are lucky, or plan B, which is more slightly, never forget, think big. I mean, you can hear that everywhere, and everybody tells you. And the reason why, for me, the easiest reason is you have to think anyway. So why not think big? Secondly, change the world. Only entrepreneurs can change the world. So if you're not changing the world, nobody will do that. So it's really dependent on you. And last but not least, don't forget to have fun, because the way is the goal. Yeah, don't think you will reach a point when you will be happy. Have fun all the way. So that's what I want to share with you today. Thank you.
That's the main stage. That's not